Sissy Goff is a counselor who's worked extensively with the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, where the shooting happened. She spent all day in the reunification center talking to parents about that. And so as soon as she requests to join, we'll have a conversation with her. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everyone. We're talking about the shooting at the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee, which she described as an itty-bitty school. It's a Presbyterian school, I think pre-K through sixth grade. 3 9-year-old children were killed by a shooter. We don't know what the motive was. Someone was asking why the shooter did this. And here is Sissy. So Sissy, as I was asking you, what is your affiliation with this school and how long have you been working with the school and what exactly did you do?
Well, I've been counseling kids and families in the Nashville community for 30 years at a practice called Daystar Counseling. And so over the 30 years, I've counseled a lot of kids and a lot of families from the Covenant School and was a friend of the head of school who was an amazing woman and have spoken. I do a lot of parenting seminars and have spoken there quite a few times and just feel like I've got a long history with the school that I love so dearly. I just am heartbroken for these families.
This was Catherine Kuntz, who you were
Yeah.
friendly with. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about her. She was, for everyone watching, Catherine Kuntz was the head of the school. She was
Yes.
60 years old. How long had she been with the school and what can you tell us about her?
I'm not sure exactly how long she had been with the school, but I got to know her when she was at the school she was before Covenant, where she was the head of learning services. And she just had an amazing heart for kids. And she was this hilarious. I mean, I loved her sense of humor, and she was kind and warm, and she was strong and steady, as we know any school administrator needs to be. And, you know, Katie, we're in this epidemic of anxiety among kids and among parents. And so I feel like she was just made to be in this role where she was at the Covenant School helping families. She recently got a dog that she named Cubby and had him at school for drop off and pick up for these anxious kids who were going to school every day. So she will be missed greatly.
And the school was pre-K to sixth grade. And tell us a little bit about the school itself. It was a very small school, right, Sissy?
Very small school. Yes. Today I was at the reunification center and talking to a friend who has kids there. And she said, we're a family. I cannot believe this has happened to our family. And that's honestly exactly how I would describe it. Just this sweet, nurturing, holistic school that loves kids and families really well and obviously is reeling as to how they can do that right now.
And you were, tell us a little bit about the scene at the school. I mean, I can't imagine the chaos that was going on there. How did you hear about it? When did you arrive? And what was it like at that reunification center or wherever it was? The church that was set up, is that?
Yes, a church was set up as that. I received a text from a friend who's a coworker who said there's been a shooting at Covenant, and which obviously again is a school I just have been so involved with and is down the street from me. And so I was on my way to work and got to work, and several counselors from Daystar were going to take snacks to families and do whatever they could. And at that point, it had already moved to the reunification center. And so I drove there, and there were the school buses. They had brought the kids by school bus to the reunification center. And so they were just pulling up, but the teachers were holding the kids on the buses at that time. And I walked up, and the parents had gathered in the sanctuary. And, you know, as everything you can imagine, a lot of chaos, a lot of tears, a lot of parents who just had no idea what even was happening. And they really, at that point, the folks at the school, the families didn't really know. They were not keeping up with the news. And so they didn't know what all had happened at that point yet, other than they've been.
And Sissy, what about those, those 3 precious 9-year-olds?
Yeah.
And Were their parents at the reunification center? How were they notified about their kids? It's just so unfathomable.
I know. I'm not even sure, Katie, how that happened, but they were not in the room. Everyone that was in the room, their kids were there. And so they were going through a really systematic approach. The Metro Police were there handling all of it. They did an amazing job handling and trying to reconnect these families. And so they were calling families up a little bit at a time. And several counselors, I mean, I think probably 15 counselors from the area just showed up, and they were helping parents talk with the kids and had us talking with the parents. And then I ended up talking with the group about how to talk to kids about this and what they could do in terms of just supporting their kids through this right now.
Well, I mean, sadly, this is something that almost like all kids need to, and parents, all parents need to know how to talk to their kids about this, because you think about, I covered Sandy Hook, and there's Uvalde, and now this, and obviously there have been a lot of others with Columbine, Parkland. I could go on and on. And so I think parents are understandably freaked out, and children probably, you know, you have these live shooter drills now that are going on. Hey, by the way, Sissy, I know this probably isn't within your purview, but I understand that the school wasn't locked, that there was an open door. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not heard anything about that.
And
No.
do you know anything about this shooter who was apparently a student? We just got information from the local newspaper. It was a trans man, not a trans woman, had been reported earlier. Have you heard or gotten any information from anyone? I know this hasn't been your job there, about the shooter.
No, I have not heard anything. I was at the reunification center for several hours, so I feel like I'm still catching up on everything that's come
Yeah.
out.
So
That's what I've,
understandably, Sissy, so what do you tell these parents? I mean, obviously you had a different message for the parents of the traumatized kids who were inside the school when this happened. And what advice and what counsel were you giving those parents when you saw them?
well, to keep their kids close. I mean, the first thing I said, well, actually, really the first thing I said, because everything we know about anxiety is that when we are anxious, kids are going to pick up on it, and they're going to become anxious as well. And so I literally said to the parents, I want you, before you go to meet your kids, I want you to take 3 deep breaths. I just want you to calm yourself down first, because they need you to be steady in the midst of this. And obviously you can feel, but you don't want to process your feelings with your kids. You know, it's okay for all of us, for them to see us feel teary and overwhelmed and frustrated and confused, but we don't need to process that with the kids we love, because they're going to need space to be able to process their own feelings, and for us to be a steady source in the midst of that. So that was honestly probably my biggest message. And then, you know, what I would say to any parent in this situation, having the conversation with their kids, is that, you know, I think we want to always, in all things that are important with kids, be the source. We need to be the ones they come to ask the important questions. And so they need to hear it from their parents rather than hearing it at school, for kids not at the Covenant School, obviously, but anywhere else. And I think with kids, they have this amazing ability that they only ask the questions that they're ready for the answers. And so I will say to parents, you know, I want you to have 3 to 4 concrete, age appropriate statements about what's happened that is factual. Then let them ask questions from there. And you give them a little bit of honest, age appropriate truth as they ask a question, and then let them ask another question. And then let them ask where they're really leading the conversation.
That's really good advice. My mom used to say less is more, that kids don't, you know, that they will ask the questions. Yeah. So I think that's really good advice. But what about all kids? You know, they see this on the news. They hear probably their parents talking about it. We have an epidemic of anxiety happening with kids all over the country, from, you know, little kids to college students and beyond. So how can you, well, you can't, it's hard to assure all kids that they're safe at school. On the other hand, You don't want to alarm them. And I mean, can you give sort of words of wisdom about what you would suggest all parents say to their kids about gun violence in schools, which is just a horrendous thing for a question for me to even ask.
I know. I mean, I think one thing to say to all parents is we don't have to have the answers. We don't have the answers. We don't understand how this kind of thing happens, but I think anytime we can point them toward things they can control. And so talking with kids about what do you know the safety measures are at your school? And what can you do if you ever feel scared, where they feel, so many kids, when they don't have other coping strategies, control is going to be what they go to. And so how can we set them up to feel some kind of control in this situation? And I think always, I mean, I think about in situations like this, Mr. Rogers, and his whole thing about look for the helpers. And so how can we help kids not only talk about where they feel control, but how can we help them move towards some action? So for families that aren't in our community, how can you write letters to the Covenant School? What can you do that makes you feel like you're giving, you're moving toward that kind of thing out of your emotions and the helplessness that I think only creates more anxiety in all of us?
Sissy, somebody says, what kind of language can I give to my kindergartner? We were set to do, I think she had written lockdown drills tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
No, what would you say to Susan, who's obviously a kindergarten teacher?
Yes. Well, Susan, I'm so grateful for what you do. Thank you for the difference you make. And I would imagine teachers are afraid too. And I think with those kids, they will hopefully have been told by their parents, because again, parents need to be the source. And so I would let, even in that setting, the kids lead. And I would say, probably a lot of you all are aware that a really hard thing happened in Nashville. And let's talk about what that was and what
You,
questions do you have?
but Sissy, you wouldn't do that with kindergartners, would you?
Well, I think if I would maybe send an email even to the parents to say, what have you communicated to your kids? And have a conversation like that. And then, yes, I think with kindergartners, I would say, um, there is a lot going on for all of us right now. And I want any of you to know that you can come talk to me about anything today. And we're going to do some fun things, and we're going to take some deep breaths together. And we're going to do a lot of things. We're going to draw together. I would just do a lot of things that point them towards kind of processing emotions in healthy, productive ways. And no, I would not specifically say with kindergartners, I'm sorry, I was confused about the age.
That's okay.
I would not say to them specifically what's happened, but with older ones, I think for teachers, if they feel like, if they get the sense that the kids have already been told, I think to give them a safe place to be able to process that.
Yeah, they said somebody did ask, how should teachers have this conversation with students?
I would touch base with the parents first, because again, you want parents to have had the conversation and let them lead that. And then just to create space for kids, if you feel like you're getting mixed reviews of some parents have told and some haven't, then just say to the kids, hey, I just want you to know I'm always here for you guys, and whatever you need, and just come talk to me. Or we'll have a code word. I love code words. We're going to have a code word that you can come up and say, I don't know, whatever it is that they want to say to you if they need to talk. And then you can either step outside with them if you have somebody else in the classroom, or hold them back at recess or something like that and have a conversation with them.
Yeah, we sure have a lot of questions. Someone says, tell kids if you see something, say something. Make sure every kid has a trusted adult they can go to with any issue or fear. Oh, it says the school was locked. Sorry, I might have been misinformed, but the shooter shot, I guess, his way through a side door, because apparently it was a trans male shooter. Um, and are there other injuries as far as you know? Is anyone in the hospital right now?
I have not heard that. I did see a press conference that the mayor of Nashville did, and they did not mention that, at least when I was watching it.
And Sissy, do you have any idea, or I know you've been busy all day, about the Shooters Association with the school. Apparently, it was a former student, and I guess there was a manifesto of some kind found. Again, I pretty much read up on most of this, but do you have any idea what the motive might have been, Sissy?
I have no idea. I can't even imagine. I don't know.
Yeah, and also we should mention, in addition to those 3 9-year-old students, there was also a substitute teacher
Yes.
who was killed, and also a janitor who was killed. Did you
Yeah.
know either of those individuals, Sissy?
I knew her. She was very beloved in our community as well. And I know he was. He had to be too.
Oh, it's just so heartbreaking, and it just keeps happening, sadly. And but we're holding everyone in Nashville in our hearts tonight. And thank you for the work you're doing. Someone asked if there were going to be additional counselors. I imagine that your services and the services of people like you are going to be readily available for the whole community, and for the kids and for the parents and for the teachers who were involved in this school, or even in other schools in Nashville. It must have a chilling effect on the whole city.
Yes, I think our whole city is making themselves available in terms of offering therapy. And my colleague and friend David Thomas and I myself are going to be at a church tomorrow to speak with the families from Covenant to help in whatever way we can.
Well, thank you for all you do for this community, and thank you for hopping on this Instagram live with me, Sissy. I'm really happy to meet you. I'm sorry under these circumstances, but really appreciate your insights and your advice for a lot of parents who are really don't know how to handle this or to talk to their kids about something that we never imagined we'd have to talk to kids about.
I know. Well, thank you for sharing information and truth and hope in the midst of it too, Katie.
Is there any, I'm wondering if you have any kind of online resources at all, Sissy, or if you could recommend for parents who really need more guidance than an Instagram live about talking to their kids about things like this?
You know, I don't know. I just put up a video today on my Instagram about how to talk to kids specifically about it. I don't know great resources in terms of talking to your kids. I wish I did about school shootings, but I have a podcast called Raising Boys and Girls, and we have done some recent episodes about anxiety in kids, and so hopefully that could be a resource. And I've written a book for parents about anxiety, and one for elementary age kids, and one for teenagers too about that. So
well, it sounds like you're a great resource. So your Sissy, your Instagram handle is Sissy Goff.
Yes.
SISSYGOFF. If anybody is interested in learning more about Sissy's work or following her on Instagram, I'm sure you'd be a great resource, Sissy. And gosh, we got something like 40, I can't read these glasses. I think I need stronger glasses, Sissy. We got something like 28 questions. So I think a lot of people are really interested in helping their kids. It's a hard time to be a kid. It's a hard time to be a parent. But, hopefully we can come together as a community and help each other.
Absolutely.
All right, Sissy. Thanks again.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.